Hey.
Am I in frame?
Yes. Hello. Welcome to today's Friday Facebook session. Are
Am
you
I,
in
am I the
frame,
right?
Simon Daly? Are you in frame?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Am I in
You are.
frame?
No, you are. You are in frame. Yeah.
Is my lighting good?
We haven't got
How's
a
my
close up of
lighting?
your Neanderthal forehead at the moment. So there we go. There we go. Yeah.
Better.
Anyway. Let's crack on with today's Friday Facebook session. It's Friday again. Yay!
Oh, wow.
Today we are talking about Facebook ads, and more importantly, we're talking about managing your own Facebook ads. Facebook ads are one of those they're one of those things that everybody thinks, oh, it's only a few quid here and a few quid there. We can easily do that ourselves. We don't need an agency to do it. And in most cases, if you're just running like a few small campaigns, you probably don't. You are perfectly capable of doing it yourself. It's not rocket science. But there are some skills to doing it that just some little kind of tweaks and hints and tips that mean you don't end up wasting a fortune. Because although it's only 5 quid here and 5 quid there, by the time you've spent 6 weeks, you know, throwing 5 quid here and 5 quid there away, you're quite a bit of money into a campaign and you might not have got anything out of it. So today we have got 5 top tips on how you, as a small business owner, can manage your own Facebook ads. First of all, who have we got with us today? Simon Daly, what's your name and where'd you come from?
I'm Simon Daly from GrowTraffic.
Okay. And Annika, who are you?
I'm Annika from Annika Burke Digital, I think officially.
There we go. Where are you today, Annika, in the world?
In Manchester. Nice, rainy, miserable Manchester.
Yeah. Bake-Up's absolutely no better today at all.
Is that your converted garage?
It is my converted garage, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I've been talking to you for months and I always thought you were in a loft. I didn't realise you were in a garage. See, things you learn about people all the time. Yeah, no, I assumed you were up in a loft because of
Cool,
your line. There we go. Yeah. Anyway, right, we're nice to talk about Annika's garage conversion.
Do you have pins, Annika, on that map behind you?
Yeah.
Have you got like pins of where you've been in the world?
No, it's a scratch one.
Oh.
Where you've been, but we've decided we need to go to China and Russia because it's really depressing. Because it just looks like we've not been anywhere.
Yes, if we had one of those, it'd just be Europe. I don't think I've ever been outside of Europe. Anyway, again, we're not here to talk about Europe, are we? Let's not open that can of worms. Okay, Facebook ads. Right, let's crack on with it. Number 1 tip. If you are running your Facebook ads, the first thing that you need to do before you do anything else is identify your audience. Annika, why does that matter?
Because it's who you're targeting. It's the most important bit you can do. If you get your audience wrong, it's just never going to work. And so many people kind of go in, particularly people who are looking at kind of local ads, will go in and go, well, I'll just target absolutely everyone in my local area. Mm-hmm. But everyone's different and not everyone is looking for the same products or services. So knowing that audience and essentially where Facebook ads differ to things like Google ads and other advertising and like paid media is that you don't put in your keywords. So if you're advertising, say, a cleaning service, you can't go in and say, well, I'm a cleaner, so I'm looking for people that are looking for a cleaner. You can't do that. You can't put in your keywords. So you are fully based on your audience. So if you don't know them, you're not going to find them and they're not going to find you.
It is the biggest mistake that people make, isn't it? Is that they say, well, my product or my service is applicable to everybody, so I'm just going to run it to everybody. And actually what you end up with then is a campaign that's targeting nobody. Mm-hmm. And you need to really figure out, okay, and I mean, these are the other points that we're going to come on to as we talk a bit more, but, you know, you need to figure out, you might have to have multiple campaigns depending on who you're talking to, but you really need to identify, and by this we mean by gender, by geographical region, by age group, by interests, you know, really narrow down, who do I want to talk to in this campaign? Dali, what do you think?
Yeah, it's much more like traditional kind of advertising in print publications in the way to do your kind of research into what your audience is like compared to something like PPC or certainly keyword-based PPC. But the other thing is that you can get too specific with it as well. So there's a balancing act to be had between generating an audience that looks like your potential customers, but giving Facebook's AI, because it's much more AI driven than things like Google Ads. Enough kind of data to figure things out.
Yeah. And if you go with the really small, and that is so tempting to be like, I know my audience exactly, and I go straight down, you've got a 3,000 people audience. It's just never going to work. You're either going to have frequency through the roof and you're just going to bore people to death in that 3,000, and you're not going to get much from it. So it is a balancing act.
Yeah. It is a balancing act. It is. I think it is important to remember though that Facebook is, because, you know, obviously ads is a massive revenue stream for Facebook. They have invested in this more than any other, and they've got a lot better in recent years at allowing you to identify your audience and narrow it down and stuff, haven't they? So yeah, they give you the tools to enable you to do this. But I think that's absolutely the first point. So number one, how do you manage your own Facebook ads? You identify who your audience are. Who do you want to talk to with this specific advertising campaign? Point number two, this kind of follows on actually, segment your audience. So what do we mean by segment your audience? Do either of you know what I meant when I wrote segment your audience?
I've not even read your points, to be honest, Rachel.
Okay, so what I mean by this is, it does follow on from the point we've just had. So instead of saying, right, I've got one big campaign and I'm going to run it to every single person, you break it down and you say, okay, I've got this advertising campaign with this graphic and this message, and we'll talk a bit more about messaging and images in a minute. But I'm going to run this one for women who are aged 20 to 30. And then you say, and I'm going to have a different campaign that's going to run for women that are aged 30 to 40. And that might be a different product, it might be a different service that you're targeting. You are breaking your audience down, you're breaking your campaigns down, rather than just having one ad that runs for 6 weeks and targets everybody. Annika, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that we probably should have been number one tip, actually, that when most people go wrong is actually they have a Facebook account, they have a business page, and then obviously Facebook message them all the time saying, boost this post, put some money behind it, you pick a bit of an audience. That's probably the number one place where people go wrong, because boosting a post is very, very different to running Facebook ads in Ads Manager.
Yeah.
And in Ads Manager, that is where you can segment your audiences, you can have different ad sets, you can have different campaigns running. So I think that probably is the first place to start.
Yeah, there's actually 3 levels, isn't there, Annika? There's boosting your posts. There's the ad center, which most kind of businesses start off on, and then there's Ads Manager, which gives you the full kind of targeting functionality.
Yeah,
I think it might just be worth, Annika, actually just clarifying what is the difference between boosting a post and running an ad, because I think most people won't understand that they are different things.
And that is, like I say, it's when most people go wrong straight away. And as soon as you speak to people and they say, oh, I've spent 50 quid on Facebook and got nothing from it, they've done that. And Facebook are quite savvy with it, and that they do make it really easy for business owners. You know, it is a click of a button. If you've got a post, you know, boost this post, and that basically takes a post that you've already put on your page, you put a bit of money behind it, and you do choose an audience. So you can still go through your audience kind of categories the same as you would, and then it pushes it out to that audience. But that's it then. You kind of put your lifetime budget behind it. It doesn't work if you're doing ongoing Facebook ads. That's where you need to set up an ads manager, where you need to have an ads account and an ads manager account. And as me and Simon know, this is the most difficult part of Facebook, is getting the right people, the right access, and setting up ads manager.
It's such a nightmare. Why did
you two have just spent an entire week, haven't you, trying to get access to a client's ad manager account? So
there's about 3 different ways that you've got to grant somebody access before you can get full access to it.
Yeah, but that scratch is better.
I think the other key thing to remember, without going down the too complicated route, is that you know, the difference between a boosted post and an ad is that they have completely different intentions behind them, don't they? So you might have just put a post up. So for example, when we put these videos out on the GrowTraffic page, Facebook will send us a message saying this video is doing 90%, better than 90% of the other posts on your page. Do you want to boost it? And we could, you know, you could absolutely, you could say, yeah, all right, put 20 quid on it, boost it out, show it to a few more people. these videos don't have a call to action on them. You know, that they're not designed to be an advert in the traditional sense of the advert. Whereas an ad that you're running, that is targeting a specific person with a specific message and a specific product or service and a call to action. So they're really different. And you're absolutely right, Annika. Facebook lure you in with this, and they make it so I'll just boost this post, and then people will go, well, I've spent 50 quid on Facebook ads, and it's so I'm not doing it anymore. It's a waste of time. It didn't get me anything. And it's really important to remember that difference, isn't it? Dali?
It is totally different, and it's not just that there are several different types of ads that you can have with Facebook. So you can have things like lead generating ads where they actually have a form in them, or you can have message ads where they trigger a message box, or you can send people to your website. And there's all different kinds of advertising that you can do. You can have a like campaign where you are generating likes back for your Facebook page. So it's completely different. The functionality that you get through Ads Manager is hugely different. It's a different experience altogether.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So we've got Facebook. How do you manage your Facebook ads? Number one, you identify your audience. Number two, you segment it. Number three, I'm going to switch this around a little bit because I think we've just raised a point that I think should be in there. And I'm going to say point number three is understand what you are trying to achieve. Have a goal. So people, as you know, Dali's just said, people will set off and they'll say, "Oh, I just want to run some ads." I mean, we say this with every one of these that we do. If you don't understand what you are trying to achieve, how do you know? And you can get really specific with this. So it could be that you just want more people to like your page. Could be that you want traffic onto your website. Could be that you've built a landing page and you want to drive people towards that. Could be that you want to sign people up or specifically sell a product. Again, you need to know what you're trying to achieve if you want to set your ad up to be successful, don't you, Annika?
Yeah, definitely. And like Dali said, there are so many different formats to go, but also don't get stuck on when in Ads Manager, when you set up a new campaign, the first screen that comes up says what do you want to do? Is it a conversion? Is it a lead gen? Don't get too stuck on that. Know what you want to do, but also test out different formats. There's a client I'm working on at the minute that we wanted to push people through to the website to convert on a form, but after testing it just wasn't working. People weren't converting on that form. So we went back a stage and have tested a lead gen ad, worked straight away, leads in within days. So don't get too know in your head what the end goal is, but don't get too stuck on particularly Facebook's categorization of how to get to that point.
Yeah, it's all about, it's the same with any kind of marketing, isn't it? You've got to understand your goals and objectives and then develop a strategy with some tactics that you think will help you achieve that. And if they don't, then you've got to change them up. We did that. We started off with, we were trying to promote housing development over in Pulteney-Fylde, and we started off by using simple kind of click call to actions, click onto the website, submit a form. We got hundreds of people there, but none of them filled out the form. So we flipped it around to a messaging campaign, and we had something like 200 conversions for them off messages. And it just goes to show that just something as simple as changing the type of ad or changing what you're asking them to do can change how somebody perceives it.
And
I think that's important. Oh, sorry, go on, Annika.
I was going to say as well, you have to keep in mind that Facebook don't want people to leave Facebook. So, they prefer your lead gen ads, your messaging ads, they like things where people can click one button, convert, so the advertiser is happy because they're getting what they wanted, but you've not left their platform. They're still there. They're going to go straight back to scrolling through. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, that they often do work better because of that reason. And also, we've all done it where you clicked on a button and then it's opened another window and then opened something else and you've got a bit lost. It's easier to just kind of hit a button, do what you want, fill out the form or send a message.
I think that's really important to remember, actually. That, I mean, that's one of the things when we do our social media marketing course, it's looking at the algorithms, and it's fun. You know, you need to remember that at the heart of everything you want to do. Any platform, their end goal is to keep people on that platform. So if you are doing things that are taking people away from it, if you're sending them to a different website or a landing page or whatever, naturally that is probably not going to work as well as something that keeps somebody in the same environment. And they prefer native content as well. So again, you know, if you've created your post in Facebook, if you're not, you know, if it's not a YouTube video, for example, that somebody's going to watch, you know, keep if it's Facebook ads that you're doing, keep everything in Facebook is going to work better. Yeah, I think the other thing to remember as well, just thinking about kind of what your goals are as a small to medium business owner, it's important to maintain that kind of flexibility as to what you want to achieve. Yes, you know that your end goal is you want to sell more products or you need more customers, whatever it might be. But actually, you might need to think a bit more niche and come a few stages back. You know, Facebook ads can be an amazing tool for various things. It might not necessarily be the thing that's going to get you those more sales, depending on what your products and services are. So it's fine to come back those stages and say, all right, well, in the meantime, let's use it to grow my Facebook page, or yes, let's use it to run a competition or something like that, and be a bit more niche. Okay, so points number 1, 2, and 3, Facebook ads. Number 1, identify your audience, break them down, segment them. Next point is understand what you are trying to achieve and where you are trying to get to. Point number 4, change your messaging and your adverts based on who you are targeting it at. Now, again, we've already said this in this session, people will have one ad or one post, and they will run that, and they'll target that at everybody, male and female, between the ages of 25 and 65, all over the world. Actually, you need to have lots of little campaigns, don't you? And have, you know, make sure your imagery that you're using is targeted to that demographic. So, for example, if you're targeting women that are in their 20s, don't have pictures of 60-year-old men. You know, think about your messaging, the language you use, the imagery you use, and really mold that advert or that post so that it's appropriate to your audience.
Yeah, I think also as well, on top of that, think about your platforms, because I think one thing that sometimes a lot of people don't realize is when we're talking about Facebook ads, we're talking about ads on Facebook and Instagram and Facebook Messenger and a few other places, but mainly Facebook and Instagram. And I think a lot of people I speak to, particularly like younger creatives, when I said, oh, like Facebook ads would work, they go, I don't like Facebook. And I'm like, I mean Instagram. And it's about knowing where that audience is. You know, a lot of younger people these days are not on Facebook. So I would just rule that out as a placement straight away. But yeah, your messaging, you know, what you deliver on an Instagram post, on an Instagram ad, could be very different to Facebook, and particularly on the kind of format as well. So things like stories, if you've got a really like hard sell, like clearly looks like an advert, that is not going to work on an Instagram story. People just swipe past it. Whereas if you make some content that actually, you know, it's you with a phone talking to the camera, like it looks like a story, people are more likely to engage with it because they almost think that you're already friends with them. Like you trick them into thinking that it's not an advert.
It's really easy these days, isn't it? And it's something that happens subconsciously within milliseconds in your brain. You know what is an advert and what is genuine content. Everybody does. And if you are trying to push, you know, what is clearly an advert and has a really heavy sales message and whatever, it just, you know, people are not on Facebook or Instagram to look at adverts. That's not what they're there for. They're there to, you know, engage with their friends and look at family photos and all the rest of it. You have to try and get your content to be as native as you possibly can, don't you? Dali?
Yes. Yeah, you need to. Yeah. I was gonna say that you can use some of the things that I look out for to see whether the messaging needs changing. There's things like frequency, so the number of times that an ad's been seen by people, how often what the interaction rates are looking like. So yeah, you absolutely need to change up your kind of your ads regularly, but you need to do it in a kind of scientific way. Otherwise, you're just constantly changing the things. You may not need to. If it's working, don't keep changing it.
There are ways as well, though, that you can kind of give Facebook some of the control back, which goes against everything in my body. But by using things like dynamic ads, you can upload, 6 different images and let them do the hard work. They know how old someone is, what they're more likely to click on, or what. And historically, I've always been massively against dynamic ads. They've never worked properly. But as Facebook's AI is improving, I am seeing them work better now.
It is getting better.
It's the way it's going to go as well.
Yeah.
It's the same way, and Google is going in that direction as well. All advertising will become pretty much automated.
So if you two were advising somebody, like your average small to medium business owner, say they had a budget of like 150 quid and they wanted to run some ads for a month, would you be advising maybe put a third of that budget onto some dynamic ads and let those run and use the rest of it to kind of have a little run short ads, small amounts of money, small periods of time, small audiences?
Well,
I told them not to bother with 150 quid a month. Nice and that. Just save your money. Go and do something go and pick up the phone.
Well, I've had 150 quid campaigns that have generated some leads.
It depends on the business, I think. I think a lot of people, if we're talking about, a service-led business, for instance, then don't bother unless your goal is just to get 100 more people to like your Facebook page. Yeah, don't bother. But people with products, people that make like things like candles, or they sell, I don't know, Tropic or Arbonne or whatever. I've seen small campaigns work quite well for that kind of thing. Annika, have you?
Yeah, and I've worked on some campaigns that have got tiny little budgets. You just have to be kind of more careful with where the money's going. One thing I would say as a tip that is a massive, massive difference. So historically, you used to set your budget at ad set level. So you would have to kind of make that decision early on like what audience you're investing in, what ad type. Whereas now, using campaign budget optimization, I think it's called, they call it CBO. You basically so if you had that 150 quid, you put that on one campaign and then segment it out at ad set level. And then Facebook will split your budget depending on who is going to convert better. So again, it's kind of taking that control away from you. And I think it's like everything in digital. You have to trust your own gut and your audience, but also don't get stuck on that better, because you might think that all your audience is 20 to 25 females, but if Facebook have got all the data and people are converting better at 35 to 45, let them put your budget there.
Yes, yeah. It's a bit like eBay, isn't it? You give eBay your budget, you say, allocate it, auction at the price. It is. It's putting your trust in the algorithms and the big data that they've got to work with it. I mean, that does happen all the time, actually, when I'm talking to clients and I'm auditing their websites, and I say, these are the people on your websites, this is their age, this is where they are. They go, oh, that's not who my are. But that's who's using your website, so who you get through the door is different. But anyway, so okay, if you are managing your own Facebook ads, our top 5 tips: identify your audience, split it down, run small campaigns, small amounts of money based at small numbers of people, have a goal, what are you trying to achieve, change your messaging and your imagery based on who that ad is going to. So make sure that you are showing somebody a post or an advert that is going to be applicable and relevant to them, not something completely opposite. And point number 5, test, adapt and change. Now, I know there's going to be a caveat in this one, isn't there? Because as Dali's just said, if it's working, don't touch it, leave it, let it work. But for a lot of people, it will take a little bit of tweaking, and I think they shouldn't be afraid to do that, to say, all right, that ad's not working, let's stop it, let's try a different message, let's try a different landing page, let's try a different photo. Don't be afraid to switch it up rather than just
never work forever. You always get to the point of diminishing returns on ads, so you constantly need to be changing them.
Well, everybody's going to reach a point where they've seen it, aren't they? You know, there's got to be a saturation level where so many people have seen that ad so many times, they're just not going to register it at all anymore.
Yeah. And I think also if something's working, that's great, but test to see why it's working. So is it the headline that's working, or is it the image that's working? So I would run like close variations of it so that you can see what it is that's actually working, rather than just going, that's brilliant, that's driving it, and I'm not going to touch it at all. And, you know, you've got the control. You're still keeping that kind of, that one that's working live. You're just testing different variations against it.
It is a good point, actually, that, isn't it? And I think that's the one thing people are scared, and it comes back to this: people will have one ad and they will run that forever at everybody, and you've got to just keep tweaking. You say, keep tweaking the message, keep tweaking the photo, keep tweaking the landing page. You know, keep tweak the goal. You know, change what you're going to do, and just see what is the most. Because even if you are running a campaign and you think that's working, that's brilliant. It could still work better. You know, you could still always improve on that.
I think on that point, kind of your account structure is, again, probably another point that we should have put in as a tip. Getting your account structure right can make a massive difference. So we keep saying, like, segment your audience. I actually wouldn't segment your audience at campaign level nowadays. I audit accounts and see accounts that historically they've got hundreds of campaigns running. It just gets to a point where they're unmanageable. And again, people used to use lifetime budgets, so they would duplicate the campaigns every month and put in the new budgets.
I still do that. I'm guilty of this.
Yeah,
I'm still guilty of working in the old way. Yeah, I know you don't have to.
And also, Facebook sees that as a different campaign. So all of the data that it has learned in January, when you duplicate that in February, it goes, well, this is a new campaign. I don't know anything about it. I don't know who's going to convert best. So
I think you can select to transfer everything through to the new campaign when you duplicate.
You can transfer like likes and comments.
Likes and comments, isn't it? Yeah.
All the background stuff about it. It's a new campaign. Whereas if you have, you know, if you've got 2 products, I would run maybe 2 campaigns and then segment your audience at ad set level, and then use campaign budget optimization to put your budget at campaign level, so that is then being split out across your ad sets. And then would look at having, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 ad sets. Like, don't go too heavy, and then 3 or 4 ads in each ad set, because
I think that is actually that's a really good point, actually, where when we're saying all of this, you know, split it out into smaller ads. Again, there's a finite limit on that, isn't there? Don't go insane. Don't have so many that you've got 150 different ads running and you can't manage it and you've got no idea what's going on. Still keep it small. And if you're setting a new one, you know, is there perhaps one that you can stop, that, you know, so that you're keeping it to a reasonable, manageable number at all times. We are on time. I'm going to just run a rerun of the 5 points from today, and then I just want us to have a little quick chat about the news. Because there's quite a lot going on in the news, isn't there? Right. So Facebook Live, managing your own campaigns. Number 1, identify your audience. Number 2, split your campaigns up so that you're running smaller campaigns, not just one massive one going to everybody. Number 3, have goals. What are you trying to achieve? Are they realistic? How are you going to manage that? Number 4, switch your messaging and your imagery and your destination and things up based on who you are targeting. If that ad is not relevant to them, they will not pay attention to it. So how do you make sure your ads are relevant? And number 5, test, adapt, change, improve at all times. Don't sit on your laurels with ads. It's absolutely a constantly evolving thing that you need to be doing. Annika, if people want to come and have a chat with you about it, please will you put your contact details in the chat box at the end of this so that they can talk to you. So, but before we go, what the hell is going on with Facebook in Australia? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's not just Facebook, it's all big tech.
Well, yeah, but Google, so was it last week, week before, Google said, right, well, we'll just pull the news from Google, but they very quickly backtracked and went, that's not going to be good for us. It's not a good idea. So,
Have
yeah.
they got a solution yet, though?
They've paid.
Because,
Google
sorry?
Google have made a deal with the Australian press, and they've paid, whereas Facebook haven't, and they've just pulled everything.
So essentially, Australia, as in the Australian government, said to Facebook, you pay for your news because you are a news distribution outlet, and you know everybody else has to pay for it, so you pay for it. And Facebook said, we're leaving this party now, we're not going to do that. They have pulled overnight, they stopped anybody being able to share any news from an Australian news outlet. But what they did in the process of that was that they managed to, because they had this kind of geographical Australian-wide ban, they managed to banish a lot of people, like the Australian government. Emergency services weren't allowed to post messages about emergency updates, about crises that were happening, that the government was stopped from posting things. Even Facebook's own Facebook Australia page was down for a bit. But I think the early indications of this seem to be that this is going to massively backfire. A lot of people that they thought everyone would go, oh no, we can't live without Facebook, so we'll have a go at the government. A lot of people in Australia have gone, actually, screw you, this is not an acceptable way to behave, and they've either removed or deleted or whatever their Facebook accounts. I don't know. I mean, how do we think this is going to play out, Annika?
Well, I mean, if you see the front cover of the Metro this morning, it's a massive message basically saying delete Facebook. So it's happening here. It's not just in Australia, because obviously it's gonna have a knock-on effect. I think it's from Facebook's point of view, I think it's a really stupid idea, because as a company, they're still trying to recover from the Cambridge Analytica stuff. Like, people don't really like Facebook as a company. They use it, but I think it's quite risky, and I don't know if they will backtrack on it, but I think it's something, I don't think it's necessarily a very safe place to, I don't think it will always be there in the form it is.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, I am on Facebook every day, primarily for work. I use it for. And I know a lot of people who will be on there, and they will use it to keep in touch with family and look at photos of their relatives and what have you. But as a company, as a corporate entity, people don't like that. And especially in the UK, we have this kind of antithesis to big monopolies, don't we? Anyway, it's kind of ingrained in our culture, and it is interesting. Facebook think they are infallible, and I'm not entirely sure that they are. No company is, are they? Dali, what do you think?
I think it makes a lot of commercial sense for Facebook to pull the news. The business model is set up in a certain way, and I doubt that they could overnight can take the impact of that. They'll have to find a way of bringing news back in, maybe, and how they're going to make payments for that. I've not caught up on the news of Google, and so I don't know what. I was just having a look at it, so I can see that they've made some kind of deal. So Google was trying to make a deal before when they made the announcement they were thinking about pulling out of Australia. They were trying to make a deal, like a compromise deal with news suppliers, and they threatened to pull out of Australia because they couldn't reach an agreement that they felt would work for them as a business. And I suspect the same thing has happened with Facebook, that they just can't make financial sense.
Yeah. It is muddy waters, isn't it? Because you can see it from both sides. Facebook, as a platform, they don't buy and share news. It is their users that share news. So you can see the point. Why should they, as an entity, buy news for distribution when they are not distributing news? But by the same token, they're making an absolute fucking fortune, aren't they?
They have social responsibility. Well, I mean, they claim they don't, that this is the main problem that we have. But they have just pulled all news outlets that are spreading truthful news. I mean, yes, it's from different angles, but it's real news. They haven't blocked things like QAnon or completely made up news outlets, because they're not news outlets. So you can go on now and spread anti-vaccine messages, no problem. but you can't go on and spread a BBC article that says this is the truth about a vaccine.
Yes.
And I think, yes, from a business point of view, they have to look at it, and they are a business at the end of the day. But when you're a business of that size and you have that much data on the whole world, you know, Facebook know everything. They do have a social responsibility.
And you know, they say repeatedly, don't they, that they are not a news outlet, but they are, whether you like it or not, the place where a lot of people go and get their news. And you're absolutely right. I mean, already there's the whole debate about how legitimate is it, you know, in terms of the way the algorithms will skew what people see, because that's what algorithms do. So already your news is not unbiased that you're getting. Everybody's already starting to live in these echo chambers. If that's made even more severe because people aren't being able to access actual legitimate sources of news, that very rapidly descends into utter chaos, doesn't it? It is scary. It is scary, and I don't think people realise the impact, and you say the responsibility that these corporations have. So yeah, there we go. Hannah's said that she thinks that whilst people are disillusioned with it and people are cross with it, though, the upshot is there isn't a viable alternative. There isn't an absolute Facebook alternative. You know, yeah, we've got all these other social media platforms, but there's nobody rivaling Facebook to the same level, is there? So
again, though, it does depend on who you're targeting, because if you're selling products that target a 16-year-old, I wouldn't even go anywhere near Facebook.
That's true.
Through TikTok and Snapchat.
It's interesting from a news perspective. From a news perspective, I was thinking about this the other day, that I used to every day go to Google News and search and all the rest of it. I get a lot of news spoon-fed to me now from Facebook. You know, and I wonder how many people are in the same boat. I always think that's the way that the internet will eventually go. It'll just know the type of content that you want to receive when you're ready to receive it.
I mean, it already does. I'm on an Android phone, and you know, I've got my Google Discovery page, and it sends me stuff every day that just happens to be only from The Guardian and the Huffington Post. You know, it doesn't send me articles from the Daily Mail because it knows I'm not going to read them. It's as simple as that. So, like, yeah, we are already in that position.
Yeah, of course we are. Of course we are. Yeah. So anyway, there we go. There are things in the wind, and we will watch how it plays out. In the meantime, if you are a small to medium business owner, Facebook ads can be a really, really cost-effective way of getting your message out to people, but you've got to be smart about it. Don't just put a sales message out there to everybody and expect it to work, because it will not. Be a little bit intelligent. And I think the main thing to take away from this conversation is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't only do Facebook ads. It's a great tool to have in your arsenal, but it is not the panacea for everything, and we don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So spread it out a bit and work on your message and tweak it a little bit. Thank you very much to both of you. That's been really, really useful, really interesting session. I think we could talk about Facebook and the implications all day, couldn't we? Annika, please put your contact details in the comment box. As ever, we will keep an eye on the comment box. If you are watching this back at a later point and you have a question, please do ask it. We will answer it, or drop one of us an email. I think we all offer kind of free consultations if you just want to chat about what might be a good way to go for you and your business. Happy to answer those. Thank you very much, both of you. I have to press the button now, and then apparently we wave for a bit because Sally says I always cut it off too early. So
you always cut it off.
End session, press now, and now.